Yeah, you got it.
Recording up. There we go. So everybody, I'm Sue Frederick, Reverend Sue Frederick. Oops, lost it. There it is. Okay. So happy to be here again at Unity of Verde Valley. You all are the sweetest, most loving community. Does it sound like it's going in and out, or is it just me?
You're good.
I'm good. Okay. So my talk today is called Our Call to Holiness. Okay. That sounds.
I think it went down.
Okay. Okay, got it. Our talk today is called Our Call to Holiness, and I was inspired by this talk because I grew up Catholic, and I went, real Catholic, like 18 years of Catholic school, like Convent of Mercy Catholic. And even though I don't agree and align with their beliefs, there were many wonderful things about that tradition, as there are about all sacred spiritual paths. And still, my family of origin is all Catholic. My high school friends are all Catholic. So I could kind of keep in touch. And I received an alumni newsletter from my Convent of Mercy high school. And someone had written a beautiful essay on Pope Francis's call to holiness and what that meant to them. So I thought, well, we in Unity say that holiness is when we are aligned fully with our Christ consciousness. And those are easy words to say, and I'm going to tell you a story in a little bit about how they're much harder to put into action. But I was really drawn to this entire 50-page document that Pope Francis wrote called Apostolic Exhortation of the Holy Father Francis on the Call to Holiness in Today's World. That is such a Catholic title. In Unity, we might say Holiness Principle number 6. But I love the kinds of things Pope Francis defined holiness as. The first thing just caught me as knowing how to mourn with others. And if any of you know me, I work with grieving clients every day. I've written a number of books about connecting to our beloveds beyond the veil. And knowing how to mourn with others is such a holy, sacred act. And the Pope said also, seeing and acting with mercy is holiness. And he defines mercy as giving, helping, and serving others, and forgiveness and understanding. But my favorite line he wrote was, keeping a heart free of all that tarnishes love. I think, to me, that's the epitome of holiness. Keeping a heart free of all that tarnishes love. And then he said, and to be in constant prayer. There has never been a time, I believe, in our human evolution where it has been as important as it is now to live a life in constant prayer and in freedom from all that tarnishes love. Because these are very difficult times, doesn't matter what side of the political spectrum you're on, everybody can feel the intensity of these times. The Pope said, holiness is a habitual openness to the transcendent as expressed in prayer, trust-filled prayer. And then, of course, because it was a Catholic document, he had some things I didn't agree with that you all would agree with. And the thing that really caught my eye was, he said, the Christian life is a constant battle. We need strength and courage to withstand the temptations of the devil. Now, to me, the best thing about Unity is how we define the devil. Because I just finished ministry school, and so all these things are defined in Unity, and we were drilled on them. So Unity defines the devil as error thinking, any thoughts that are out of alignment with God consciousness, any thoughts that are out of alignment with love. So suddenly now the devil is not an outside force separate from us. Suddenly the whole cosmos is within, because we have our God consciousness constantly pouring through us, and we have our error thinking constantly pouring through us. And you can also, I also think of this in terms of, we have the ego human part of us, which has the monkey mind, that's all about fear and separation and anxiety. And then we have our soul consciousness, our higher self, our pure channel to God consciousness, divinity. So we have these 2 feet walking this world. Human ego story says, hey, you're my enemy if you don't believe in what I believe in, and I need to compete with you or fight with you and struggle for everything I need against you. That's such ego thinking. But also, we have to love on that ego, because I truly believe that when we agree to come here into physical earth life, that we have to have an ego to survive here. Its entire purpose is to keep us alive. And once we can just see it as the survival part of ourselves, we don't have to hate on it. We can just go, oh, thank you for that. But I'm going to listen to my higher self, my heart, my divine consciousness. So I want to tell you this story, but I just want to say one other thing. I do believe that walking on earth, we have to forgive ourselves for having a foot in both worlds, because what it means is that we're going to disappoint ourselves sometimes, because nobody here is living 24/7 in touch with their divinity. I promise you, if you knew anybody's story, even the most enlightened seeming people, you would know they struggle with the human side of us, the monkey mind. And the ego doesn't just tell us we're awesome. That's a misunderstanding of ego. Ego is simply telling us that we are separate from, different from everyone. And sometimes that means less than, and sometimes that means better than, right? And I also found this wonderful Benedictine perspective on holiness. And the Benedictines wrote, true holiness is a response to God, a listening to the divine, and a response to the divine. The Benedictines said, only when one listens is one able to make the journey to holiness. And that's so beautiful, because when we talk about being in constant prayer in unity, we're not talking about, praying for something to happen that we want. We are listening to our God consciousness for guidance. So I have a story to tell you about my own disappointing moment. And it happened Friday night, so it's quite fresh. And first I want to tell you that in August, I attended a 4-day conference called Helping Parents Heal Conference. And it was 900 grieving parents. And I was one of the speakers, and it was filled with amazing, beautiful, grieving mothers and fathers. And everyone wore a button of their departed child. And the first thing you would say to anyone is you would walk up and go, oh, tell me about your beautiful daughter, Amy, because you would see their picture and their name. And your conversation would be purely about that love and that connection. That was holiness for 4 days. Nobody knew anything about politics in that group. Nobody knew or cared anything about what you did for a living or where you lived. It was constant. I see you. I love you. I embrace you. That was holiness. I'm so grateful I got to be there. And then Friday night, Jean and I have our Friday night dates. And we've been doing this since we fell in love in 2003. And we were raising kids. So we had to have one night of the week where we could have them with somebody else and we'd go have dinner. So we're all peppy and we're thinking, oh, we're going to go out and have our Friday night date. And first we had to pull into Walgreens and get a prescription. So we pull into Walgreens, and it's pretty close to our house. And we come out, and Jean's car won't start. And it wasn't the battery, you know, we could tell enough to know it was serious and that we had to call AAA. And so we called AAA and they said, your tow truck will arrive in 2 hours. And, you know, it's Friday night, we're in a parking lot in Walgreens and we're thinking, this just isn't gonna work. So we decided we had to walk home and get my car. We could have Ubered it, but it was so close. It was like a half mile from where we were. And actually Gene wanted us to Uber it and I kind of wish I'd followed his guidance there, but I'm stubborn. And I said, are you kidding? It's a half mile away. But there was a challenge waiting at the corner to our intersection. And we live in Scottsdale. Every Friday night, there's a group of 10 people who have a political rally. And I'm not going to talk about what side, because it doesn't matter what side any of this was happening. But every Friday night, we hear them yelling and screaming and holding their signs up. And really the vibe is quite angry. You know, it's quite like we are right and you are wrong and all that political stuff. And making cars honk, you know, so it's kind of a big ruckus at this corner. And they're even using words that I would never yell out in public about certain political figures. And so there's that energy on the corner. And Gene, my very wise husband, says, we are not going to walk through that. And I'm stubborn. Heck, we are. We're not going to sit here and wait for an Uber and pay for an Uber just to get home. So I decide, and Gene is an angel. I'm saying, Gene, put your head down. We're just going to walk through. We're not going to react in any way. And so we do. We start walking, and both of us have our heads down, and they are looking to us for agreement, you know. And because I won't look up or smile, which in retrospect I should have. I should have looked up and just loved on him without saying a word. I should have embraced my holiness. And instead, my energy was shut down, like I'm just going to get through this. And that outraged them. So now they're like in our face, stopping our ability to walk, waving their signs, like yelling right in my ear. And I'm so sensitive to energy. And it felt like they hated me completely. And if you know what I do for a living, I help people every day. It's my life's work. In fact, I was thinking later that these could have been grieving people. And we would have loved each other if they had talked, if we had listened to each other's stories. There was one woman there who looked like a mom, you know, a middle-class, middle-aged mom with children. I just got that feeling from her. And I remember thinking, she and I could probably be friends. And I still get so emotional about it because it was such an assault saying, I don't care who you are. I really kind of want to hurt you. And they were yelling at us, Gene and I, that we should leave the country and all this stuff. And so we had to keep trying to go around them, you know, to get there, to get to the sidewalk. And we get to the stoplight and it's a 4-way intersection. So you had to wait for the lights to change. And it was so hard because, I mean, they were asking us to react because all they really kind of wanted was some sort of showdown, you know. And so we were both just like, and finally I just darted into the street, and it's only because God has decided it's not my time to go that I wasn't killed in traffic instantly, or maybe my soul has decided that's not the way I want to leave this life, running from a political rally. So we finally get on the other side of the street, and we were so shook up. I just can't even tell you. Gene and I are so sensitive. And we were literally shaking as we walked home. And I even called 911, and the police said, oh, well, they have a right to freedom of speech. And I was like, of course they do, but harassment, like what's the line there, you know? And that, but what came to me about all this is the world that now we are living in, and it is our call to holiness. And as I think back on it, I think I wasn't acting holy. I wasn't feeling holy. I should have been in my constant prayer. I should have been saying, please, divine guides, lift me up above this, fill me with love and light as I walk through this. I should have been sending love out anyway. That's what we have to do. That's what we have to do. And instead, I was afraid, I was shut down, I was angry. And the universe is telling us, even if you don't say a word, it matters what's in your heart. Even if you think, well, I'm just not going to voice my politics and blah, 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 what's in your heart is what's causing all of this craziness right now. And we have a job to do. We have to find a way to love each other no matter what. No matter what politics we believe in or don't believe in. And it's almost like we have to create a world that is a Helping Parents Heal conference, where you wear a pin of your suffering, of your pain story, of what you've been through. And that people come up and go, oh, baby, tell me about this, tell me about that. And that's how we get back to connecting. And then I was thinking, there was a hurricane last week in Florida, and every single person who could help showed up to help. And there's the holiness again. Nobody said, hey, are you a Democrat or Republican before I help you? No, everybody was all in to help anyone who was suffering. So you can see this juxtaposition we have going on here, where when we open our hearts, we are holy, we are angels, we are living in full alignment with God. And when we're in our head and our ideas, all we feel is separate and hateful, actually. I felt hated on. And that was really painful, because I just wanted to say, give me a minute, tell me your story, I just don't like connecting in that way. And it was so, Gina and I literally spent the whole weekend recovering from it. And then I was thinking, it's so amazing to me how universe provides contrast for our growth, because I had a fabulous week. I work with grieving moms every day, and I had amazing clients and talking about their amazing children in the divine and just holy work all day. And I have a mystical conversation podcast that I do that I love so much. And I got to interview an amazing dad named Joe McQuillan. He's got a book out called Pop, We're Not Done Yet. A good Catholic Irish guy that everyone would just love. And in 2016, his college-age son died in a tragic accident, sent him on an amazing spiritual seeking journey. And I got to spend an hour with him on Zoom, on my podcast. And he told me, he said, when my son died, I knew that if I couldn't find a way to continue my relationship with him, to connect with him, that I just couldn't be here on earth anymore. And I said, so Joe, what did you do to figure that out? This is a Catholic Irish guy, very down to earth, the most un-woo-woo person you would ever think. And he said, I started studying, and I had to read every book about grief. I had to read every book about life after death. I had to study near-death experiences. And finally, I came to the understanding that my work was to raise my vibration so I could connect to my departed. And this beautiful man has a routine where he wakes himself up at 3 a.m. every day, does a little chakra ritual that he's created that helps him calm down. He does his meditation of quieting the mind and opening the heart. And then he starts writing, asking his son to speak to him through writing. He's now got 2 books worth of communication from his son. And it's so powerful. And it's such an example of seeking the holiness in the midst of pain. And he says, when people come up to him and say, well, I don't ever hear from my departed child, his answer is, so what are you doing on your end to help? What is your spiritual practice? How are you quieting your mind? And that's a call for all of us. Like, what are we doing every day? How are we quieting the mind and opening the heart and realigning with our holiness? Because you never know what's coming at you in a day. Gina and I, on our Friday night date, the last thing we thought was that we were going to be accosted in a political demonstration. It just wasn't even in our awareness. And yet, what a test. And I kind of feel like I flunked it. And I'm disappointed in myself. And it's a lesson that when Pope Francis says we have to be in constant prayer, oh my God, I totally believe that now. You know, and I think we can all look back at moments in our lives and go, was I in constant prayer when that happened? And we can all look at pieces of our life where we need to pour more holiness into. And it might be your career, it might be your friendships, might be your partner, it might be your relationship with yourself. Like, how holy are the words that I speak to myself every day? So I came up with 6 steps to Unity's call to holiness. Number 1, we all have to be quiet and listen to God. And I call that meditation. You call it whatever you want, but you need an appointment, at least 10 to 20 minutes a day of sitting in the quiet, opening the heart and listening. Number 2, we have to be vigilant of the words we speak and ask us if those words are shining a light in the darkness or are they adding to the darkness. And that's a conversation that could happen anywhere. It could happen in a restaurant with your, when you're getting your nails done. Every word you speak, you have to ask yourself, does this add to the light? Because it's my job here to be the light of the world. Matthew 5, right? How does that quote start? You are the light of the world. No one, after lighting their lamp, puts it under a bushel basket, but on the lampstand where it gives light to all in the world. That is our job here. And it doesn't matter what we're going through personally, doesn't matter if our car broke down, doesn't matter. We still have to find a way to shine that light. So number 3, be merciful in your actions and do good works in the world. That is so easy when you think of it as, okay, I'm going to go do volunteering, or I'm going to go help a person who's grieving or something. But how merciful can you be when you feel threatened? We got to figure that out. We got to figure out how to be merciful even when we're scared, even when we might feel different than somebody, when we might feel threatened by someone. How do we respond with mercy? That is our calling. So ask yourself, what areas of your life do you need to pour more light, more holiness into? If your career makes you miserable and you go out and react in a negative way in the world because you hate your job, you got to change your career. I have a whole book about that. It's called I See Your Dream Job. It's back there. If it's anger in your heart because you're upset that so many people here in this world seem to not be enlightened, then you need to pour some light on your heart. Because everybody here is a soul on a journey doing exactly the best they can, no matter how it looks. Are you worried about certain friendships that you may have shut out of your life? How many of you have people you just have quit talking to? Yeah. As we get older, we start doing that. And yet, where's the holiness in that? Where's the forgiveness in that? Where's the shining the light in that? And the last one is, whenever we are aware that our ego, our selfish needs are dominating our thoughts, we have to shift into our soul's view. And to do it quickly, I think we can ask these 2 questions. How can I see this situation differently? And how can I love and forgive and behave with holiness today? So if I had even asked myself, walking up to that street corner, How can I see this situation differently? You know what I would have done with awareness? I would have imagined that they were all grieving parents. And my heart would have instantly opened for them. And I may have even walked through like this, just saying, I honor you, I love you, don't include me in your politics, but I honor you, I love you. I could have done better. So I share that story for all of us because I do believe that we are all being called right now to step up our games. We may be headed for some kind of civil war in this country. I was certainly shocked by how these people hated me and had no idea who I was or anything about me. And so I think the only way, we're at this tipping point now where it's the energy in our hearts that can shift it. And that doesn't mean arguing. It just doesn't. I mean, yes, we need to vote, but I think other than that, arguing is over. That has not gotten us anywhere. And instead, try to remember every day that yes, indeed, you are the light of the world. We are the light of the world. And so it is. Thank you so much.